whoever's behind UAP, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably something like on the order of tens to maybe hundreds of thousands of years. Wherever they're from probably is a different place than this. Who knows? I was on a podcast last night called Paranormal Rundown, and one of the topics was, what's the difference between an alien mind and a human mind? I loved the idea of that topic because what I see with UAP, and this is in the book and I've discussed this a number of other places, but those craft in my framework and how I see them is those are not spaceships, rocket across physical space. I think those are reality rewriters. Loads of reports from people who've purported to interact up close, be inside them, or even see them in the sky. Seems to be a common theme that somehow these craft interact with their consciousness. Well, in Information First, that makes complete sense because it's not a spaceship. It's a substrate level rule editor. The only thing we know of that has substrate level access is consciousness, intention, focus. That's how I think they work. What might that mean? That might mean that the minds, the brains of whoever they are, might have better access than ours in the first place. My clunky brain allows me to remote view things. Ever seen me remote view? You'll see, it's not like in the movies. Oh, it doesn't work that way. The level of access that I have to the substrate, it's kind of clunky. It's not all that amazing for most people. Could well be that there are other species or beings who have an innate, what we would call psychic ability, that is a lot more advanced than ours. That could be an evolutionary thing, and we'll get there too. It could just be the circumstances of their evolution. It's something that was selected for. And we have, over the last few hundred years at least, have really started deselecting for that kind of function. If a kid has visions, we try to correct that behavior. We don't try to encourage it. It could well be that we're going the wrong way for substrate access than we should be, or what some of these alien, or whatever they are, species have. That's why I think that recognizing information first, developing technology around it, I believe that's what it'll look like. That's what the first technology will be. Something that gives a person better substrate level access than they have innately. It's possible that UAP are humans from the future, but it's neat. But I actually think it's the least likely of all the half a dozen proposed scenarios. And I think the biggest justification behind that idea, they look like what we would look like if we kept along this trajectory. Our hair's falling out and brains are getting bigger and so on. If you look at evolution on Earth, nature keeps arriving at the same solutions for problems. Rupert Sheldrake calls it morphic resonance. I've actually spoken to Rupert about this. When I was writing the book, I asked him to evaluate my framework and tell me if he thought it resonated with his ideas. And he said it did. What he says is there's a field of information somewhere that informs biology and other organizing systems of what works and what doesn't. I think to a certain extent that's right. On Earth, nature had a problem. All of its marbles were in one basket on the ground. Multiple cataclysms have shown that that isn't the only place that you want your future. It solved that problem with wings, and it did that in birds, and it did that in reptiles, and it did it in bats, and it did it in bugs, and it did it basically the same way every time, even though on the evolutionary tree they were not similar to each other very far up the tree. I wouldn't find it at all weird on some other planet nature found the same things useful there, arms and legs and so on. I don't think that's a good enough reason to arrive at the conclusion that whoever's piloting UAP must be us from the future. I don't know that information first would make traveling into the past impossible. I'm pretty sure traveling into the future would be problematic, but it's possible. It's possible. I don't think it's the most likely explanation, though.